And welcome back once again to Managerial Accounting. This is our third lesson, which is titled Activity-Based Accounting. Activity-based accounting systems or costing systems quantify the increase in costs such as procurement costs, material handling costs, and assembly costs that are caused by inefficient product designs and other factors. As discussed in earlier chapters, direct materials and direct labor costs can be traced directly to products. Overhead costs, on the other hand, cannot easily be traced to products. Some other means must be found for assigning them to products for financial planning and reporting. In Chapter 2, overhead costs were assigned using a predetermined overhead rate. This method is simpler than the ones covered in this chapter. If we use direct labor hours as our activity base, for instance, the procedure results in high overhead costs for products that are labor intensive and low overhead costs for products with low direct labor content. The real causes of overhead may have little to do with direct labor hours. Consequently, product costs may be distorted. Activity-based costing corrects these distortions and more accurately assigns overhead costs to products. In an ABC, activity-based costing system, an ABC system identifies activities that consume overhead resources and assigns these costs to batches of production based on an activity measure that assigns costs on an activity rate. By assigning each activity its own rate, we can assign costs more accurately to high volume and low volume products, instead of using a single plant-wide measure of costs. On page 122 of the chapter, you will find a table that lists some of the commonly used activity measures grouped into 4 different levels of production. These form a sort of hierarchy of activities. The helpful hint on page 123 applies this hierarchy to the process of a professor teaching a classroom full of students, something that you are already familiar with. Take a close look at that. On page 124, the chapter presents a diagram that shows how plant-wide overhead can be subdivided into 6 different cost pools that are then applied to 3 different products. The next several pages cover the use of ABC, including computing activity rates, computing product costs, shifting overhead costs, and targeting process improvements. When evaluating an ABC, we note that only about 1 in 5 firms uses this method. It has several limitations, which include greater complexity, a higher cost of implementing the system, and possibly inaccurate assumptions about the true cost of an activity. Finally, we close this chapter with a discussion of the application of ABC to service industries. Be sure to read the chapter carefully. Note any questions that occur to you for discussion in class. Review the vocabulary to be sure that you understand each of the terms that were introduced. Study the review problems at the end of the chapter to see how such a system will revise the cost estimates of a simple 2-product manufacturer under the alternate assumptions of absorption costing versus ABC. I will allow those of you who have submitted incomplete assignments an extra week to complete them for full credit. With the resumption of regular class meetings, I think you will find that you will understand the material more readily. Be realistic about assigning sufficient time to your studies to really master the concepts presented in this course. When you begin your business management career, you will find that the problem-solving activities that we do in this class will have prepared you for the real-life challenge of your job. Thank you. See you in class.